Hi, it's Marianne of MW's Designs. I've been playing with some watercolor painted butterflies, and I've come up with a few designs that I liked and thought I would share them with you. This is one I'm going to make into a card. I have a Reflections card base from Michaels. I painted a border around the edge. Then I have my painting base, which is just a watercolor wash on watercolor paper. Then I painted a leaf and cut it out, and it has a butterfly painted on it, and I used my jelly pen to add a few details. I will attach these with double-sided tape. I could use dimensional tape to make this stand out a little bit more. I also have fussy cut some embellishments, and if I wanted a little more dimension, I could use the dimensional tape and add the embellishment on top. I'm going to show you some of the butterflies that I was working on just to practice my brush strokes and get an idea of the shape of the butterflies that I wanted. And I've made some of them small, like these ones, and then some a little bit bigger. So I'll show you a few of the ways that I've made these. I have my base, and I'm going to be using some of my favorite colors. This one is the mixture of ultramarine blue and viridian, and I have my greens. Some are just a little bit, this one is a little bit different than this one. They all have ultramarine blue, viridian, and sap green in them. And then I have a couple of generic colors. This one is just called purple, and this one is just called blue, but I like both of them, and I think they work well enough for me. So my brush that I like to use, especially to form the wing tips, is a number 6 angular brush. I don't know if you can see the lettering on there, but that's what it is, and it has such a nice point at the end. I'm going to start with this blue, and it's somewhat dark. We'll see how it comes out on here. Okay, so I just pull down from each side and then make a little bit more depth on the bottom. I don't quite like the way that turned out. Let's give it a little bit more pointiness. And then to make the bottom wings, I just loop this brush around, and then on the other one, and I'm trying to get them the same size. So we'll let that one dry. Then I'm going to change colors here. Just rinse my brush off a little bit and tap it dry. Okay, I'm going to use this blue. This is a little bit more watery. You could have it a little bit thicker, but it still is okay. They're going to be fairly pale butterflies when they dry. And the bottom parts. Okay. And let's do another one. Those don't actually look too different. I'm going to try and do a little bit darker color. And this is just what I find pleasing for a shape, but you can research butterfly shapes and you can find all sorts of variations because there are a lot of them. Just going to make, I like to have that wing just sticking out a little bit farther than the bottom parts. Okay, and that first one is dry, so I'm going to use my very small brushes. This one is a number 0, and this one is even smaller. It's a 5/0. And I'm going to go back to my first blue, and I want a little bit darker color. I'm going to make a circle for a head, and it just sticks up just a little bit past the wings, and then just straight down. This part is the thorax. It's slightly wider, and then the abdomen goes down just beyond the tip there. Okay, and to make the antenna, butterflies have a little roundish part at the end of their antennae, and then a very thin line attaching to the head. Okay, let's do this one, and I'll change to the other blue. And again, I want to get a bit of a darker part. Okay, the round head, the thorax, and all the way down to the bottom. Make the thorax a little bit wider than the abdomen. And then the little tips on the antenna. Okay, then I'm going to use my just slightly bigger brush, and I'm going to get some of the darker purple. I like to add a little bit of different colors sometimes. You could make it monochrome. This wing meets up with the thorax, so I just define it a little bit with the darker color. And I'm going to turn this sideways so that I can do it a little bit better. And if I haven't got quite as much definition as I want, I just go back over it. And I do different designs. Sometimes I just do little dotted parts along the edge. And then I'll go around the bottom ones. And sometimes I do a circle in the middle, and maybe just a little bit more along the bottom edge. Oops. That's okay though. All right, that's not bad for that one. And let's do this next one. And sometimes I just pull in from the edge. It makes it kind of interesting. I could do some little lines, very thin little lines, I think. And I try and do, if I do one line on one side, I try and do a symmetrical one on the other side. That's too much. Let's get some that isn't quite so runny. Let's start here. Okay, that's what I wanted. And then sometimes I go off make a little branching part. Forgotten what I did exactly, but let's see if we can just kind of fake it here. Okay, and then I'm going to make just kind of a little U shape at the bottom and a little teardrop shape in there. Okay, and that, yeah, I guess it's dry. Okay, this one I'm going to do just a little bit darker blue for the design parts. Oh, I didn't do the head and the thorax and the abdomen. Monochrome is kind of nice too. So let's make that into a little few design elements. Give this one a teardrop too. And I could even fill these in a little bit darker. And the antenna. And you can use either little brush that you like. And I'm going to show you in a minute, if you don't have an angular brush, what you can do instead. That got a little bit big, but it's all right. I'm going to add a little bit of blue in this. I don't quite like all that purple. Just a little bit extra color in there. Some parts can be lighter and some parts can be darker, and it just makes it a little more interesting. That tones down that purple that's a little too much. Okay. If you don't have an angular brush, I will sometimes use a round brush. This is a number 4. Let's go back to my first blue. Okay, so I just kind of go on the side of it. Maybe some people would even prefer this to the angular brush, and then I just do a round or oval part for the bottom wings. So that works quite well too. And I'm going to do some smaller ones, some smaller butterflies. What I think I want to do with these smaller butterflies is use them to make a pattern, and I have an idea for some Mother's Day cards and embellishments that I will show in a later video. Okay, I'm going to go back to my very small brush and get some darker paint. Do the little head and the thorax and abdomen. Little tiny antenna. And I might not even go around the edges of these. They're so tiny, I might just leave them as they are. Not have as much decoration on them. I'll save it for the jelly pen. Okay, let's do this one too. That one needs just a bit darker. Okay, let's do a little around the edges. Dip into my paint here. I don't have quite enough thicker, darker paint. Oh, that's really dark, but we'll see how that turns out. That could be interesting. Head a little bit more defined. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Now I'm going to show you how I do a little bit of detail with the jelly pen. I'm not going to do this one because I'll smudge that one, but let's go over here and do this one. So I like to go around some of the darker parts, and by adding the white, it softens the darker parts, and I think just adds a little bit more delicacy to it. You can go around the head and the thorax and abdomen, around the teardrop, and those little dots. Do these little ones. They're kind of fun to add the white to, and if they were on a little bit darker background, you'd see it more. Yeah, that doesn't show up too much, but there. Maybe on this one. And if you have some sloppy painting like I do, it just smooths it out. I really like my jelly pen. And let's do a little bit of the purple one. Is that dry? Yep, it is. Okay. It just really makes them look a little bit nicer. And especially when you get them cut out, if you're using them as embellishments, they look quite cute. Okay, I think that's it. And oh, I didn't show you how I did the leaf, so let's do that part. Here is my background, and I am using a number 6 flat brush and my fairly watery green, and I think that's too much. I'm gonna tap it off. So I start on a diagonal and just go down, and that's the stem. Then I go to the other side and widen the leaf. Make some of it a little bit darker, and I think maybe just clean that up a little bit. Okay, I want to take some of that off of there. Let's just tap it. And sometimes I like to use my spray bottle and move some of the paint around and make it a little less defined in some parts of it. And I can tap off the excess, and you get a more interesting design, I think. So here I have one that's already dried, and I would paint a butterfly on it, like this one. And I used my angular brush to do this, and I thought this one would benefit from a little bit of the jelly pen details. And it doesn't have to follow the lines of the painted part exactly. It makes it kind of sketchy, and I like that effect. Okay, and you know, if your jelly pen starts skipping, you just draw on your hand, and that gets it going, because sometimes when it goes over paint, it does tend to skip a bit. Actually, I have another one here. I wonder if this one will work better. I have had these jelly pens for ages, and they still keep working. I think part of the secret of it is you need to use them fairly often, and that keeps them flowing. Okay, let's do a big teardrop. I like that shape in the bottom wings. And then let's do some delicate little veining. And if there's little parts that skip, I actually think that ends up looking quite nice. I don't know if I've got it symmetrical this time, but I like the effect anyway. Okay, and you could do some veins on the leaf too. I'm not going to outline the leaf though, I'm just going to add a few hints of the veining. There, and I think that's about it. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and leave a comment or ask a question. And if you're not subscribed and would like to be, please hit the subscribe button and the bell beside it to be notified. Thanks for watching and see you soon.